Well, hello everyone. This is Al Fadi, and I want to welcome you to a live stream with our dear brother David Wood. And we apologize, of course, especially myself, for the delay in starting. We had some technical issue at my end. The topic today, probably some of you, maybe even the majority of you, have been exposed to recently, has to do with a group of Islamic scholars in Pakistan, at least on a Pakistani TV, lamenting and really weeping and crying over the fact that many Muslims are leaving Islam. And I know that David Wood, along with Apostate Prophet, played a portion of that. Sister Hatun did a portion of that. Adam Seeker did a portion of that. So we are going to discuss the same thing, but we'll bring in a different angle to it, of course. But it is absolutely an astonishing, video to watch. And for me, the reaction is how, or I should say, the proposed solution that they were coming up with were absolutely outrageous. But we will wait and hold off on discussing this until we start at least the show. Of course, with me here virtually is our dear brother, David Wood. David, thank you so much for making time for us and for, your willingness really to discuss this topic.
Yeah, happy to be here, especially discussing a topic like this one.
Yeah.
One of my favorite topics.
Absolutely. So, David, tell us a little bit more. When did you get a wind of this? I mean, was it when Adam Seeker was playing it, or did you know about it also at the same time?
No. I saw it when Hatun posted it, but she posted clips of Adam Seeker posting it. I'm guessing Adam's the one who added like subtitles and stuff and shared it. So they're basically the Urdu speaking crowd. Is familiar with these kinds of issues, but a lot of us aren't too familiar with what goes on in places like Pakistan unless it makes it into the news. So if some guys are screaming and complaining on some Muslim TV station, we're not aware of it unless someone actually does the work and adds subtitles and so on. And so Hatsun had posted some clips of it. And my goodness, it's you noted their reaction. So these guys are dealing with a problem in Pakistan. It's two simultaneous problems that they're dealing with. One is the what Muslims have called the avalanche of apostasy, and the other is blasphemy, online blasphemy, that people are blaspheming Muslim names, Allah, Muhammad, names of Muhammad's companions, and so on. And they're degrading and insulting Islam's sacred, let's call them sacred symbols. That's what they like to call them. They're sacred symbols. They're degrading and insulting and mocking their sacred symbols. But so as you've mentioned, their reaction is absolutely insane. These guys start talking about burning cities to the ground in order to deal with the blasphemy. And I will probably say this 5 to 10 times during this brief live stream, because I want everyone to get it in their mind. I want everyone to understand the core issue. I especially want Muslims to understand the core issue, because you can see from these scholars, they don't seem to understand, right? Listen to what these guys are saying the entire time. They're saying, they're insulting and speaking against Muhammad and our religion. Oh, what are we going to do? We have to kill these guys. We have to go around and murder and slaughter all of these horrible people. And they're talking about, so notice, all these people who are guilty of blasphemy and apostasy are under a death sentence from these guys. These guys are saying we have to kill them. They're simultaneously saying, but respect the religion and the book and the prophet who call for your death, who command us to murder you because of your decisions. And so notice this, because this is like, I don't understand how these guys don't get this, because it's so simple. Okay, there's a community of some size, whatever size it is. There's a community of people who are apostates and who are speaking blasphemy against Islam and against its sacred symbols. And there's quite a bit of an overlap because you have people who are apostates who are also guilty of blasphemy. And so these guys are under a death sentence. You can't come out and say this stuff publicly. You can't come out and say publicly, hey, I'm an apostate and I hate Muhammad in Pakistan, because the mob will form and they'll beat you to death in the streets. But you don't want to be silent, because you understand they're eventually coming for you. Once they find out, they're eventually coming for you. So you want to address the issue in some fashion. You can't do it publicly. So where do you do it? You do it online, right? You go online and you post your blasphemy there. So notice, why are they posting blasphemous content? Well, because they're under a death sentence. There is an ideology that calls for their violent death. They want to respond to some of it. They want to respond to it somehow. They can't do it in public, so they're doing it online. This seems like this is obviously what's going to happen if you're calling for the deaths of millions of people, but those millions of people cannot speak out openly. It seems they're going to go online and start complaining online. And now you have this situation where you have Muslim sheikhs and scholars, and they're all like openly weeping for all of the blasphemy and apostasy that's being posted online, and they're wondering what to do about it. And the only solution they can come up with is, let's be more violent. Well, what
exactly?
What's the more violence going to do? It's going to make people not like your ideology more, which is going to make them
yes,
more blasphemy. They don't realize that they're caught in this cycle, and it's so. If you want it out of it, start being nice and not threatening to kill these people. Try that for a change.
Yeah, exactly, David. I mean, first, don't we hear all the time, oh, Islam is a religion of peace, religion of peace, religion of peace, oh, religion of freedom of religion. Really? Does this sound to you that a reaction like this, I mean, I know people maybe haven't seen what we're going to show them yet, but just the idea that you have a show lamenting the fact that people are leaving Islam, why in the world is that a problem? Is that the only problem in the world that you're trying to solve right now? And why would you begin to threaten, like you said, violence and burning and killing and doing so many things if it is a religion of freedom and a religion of peace? I mean, it doesn't make any sense. And David, I have to say that this social media, YouTube and other platforms like this have been a blessing these days, because it is waking up a lot of these young Muslims in particular to the reality that your religion is nowhere near how it describes itself.
Yeah, and it's something that it's weird, because I sit there and look at this and go, how do you guys not get this? How do you not understand? Because they're really confused. Why is this happening to us? Why is this happening? Right? But they haven't gotten their minds around this for 14 centuries. Okay, you guys have a book and a prophet that calls for the violent subjugation of the entire world, calls for beating women into submission, calls for brutally executing anyone who leaves your religion, calls for all of these things that we really, really don't like, things that affect us. Notice, it's not just, oh, there's your religion and you're minding your own business, and who am I to tell you what to do? No, it's you have an ideology, you have a religion that commands you, when you're able, to subjugate me and my family and my church and everyone around me. Everyone has to submit to your religion or be executed. You're telling us that, and then simultaneously you say, oh, but respect our religion. Wait, respect the religion that commands you to murder me. Respect the prophet that commands you to murder me. Respect the book that commands you to murder. On what planet am I going to respect a book that commands its adherents to murder me? That makes zero sense. But they could get away with it for a long time, because the people who would be familiar with those teachings would be people who are subjugated, right? You're not free. If you're a dhimmi living in a Muslim country, you're not free to speak out and say, hey, we got a problem with this, right? So for 14 centuries, people who have been subjugated, or who are minorities in a Muslim country and who understand, hey, we're not free to express how much contempt we have for this book and for this insanely ridiculous prophet. We don't have an avenue. We just have to bite our tongues and not say anything about it, because if we speak out about it, they'll kill us. And all of a sudden, this internet comes around where, oh, now we can say something, right? Now we can say something, and I won't know who said it. And so now, like people around the world, but people especially in Muslim countries who have had to keep their mouths shut about how awful they think these teachings are, suddenly are able to express their contempt for Allah and his prophets and his book, and they're doing it. And what's the reaction? Is these guys are openly weeping over this.
No, it is absolutely laughable, to say the least. Let us show a small portion, maybe a minute or two of this clip, and let's continue our discussion right here. Okay, so I'm gonna share my screen.
के जो औलाद हैं उनके साथ वो निजासत को साफ करना, फिर आले बैत साहबा वाजे मुतारात के मुकद्दस नाम, उनको माज़अल्लाह सरेआम उनके ऊपर गंदगी डालना, और इस तरह की वीडियोस ये हैं।
आज तक आपको इस तरह कमजोर नहीं देखा हम।
Oh, it's like we're having an internet issue.
That happens. Never seen you cry like this.
I don't know what's going on today. It seemed like the internet is not cooperating with me.
Yeah, that anyone who live streams would be familiar with that.
Yeah, there we go. Okay, let's stop for a second here. I just want people maybe just to read the comments, and let's go back now to discussing what was going on, if you want to share a little bit more with people. And we'll make sure the link is available for people in the discussion box.
Yeah, so all that's really going on there is you have this assembly of sheikhs discussing this problem, these twin problems of now apostasy and blasphemy online, and they start complaining that people are writing the names of Muhammad and his companions on their private parts and so on, and posting them online. So men and women, it's weird, because that's not how people do it in the West, but apparently it's a big thing over there in Pakistan. If you want to insult something, you write it on your private parts. Men write it on their private parts, women write it on their private parts, and then they post it online. And then something else these guys are talking about is there are actually agencies in Pakistan that are like parallel to the FBI, but their entire goal is to crack down on blasphemy. And I've been on the receiving end of that, because people who post on YouTube, if you ever criticize anything, you start getting notifications from YouTube saying that the government of Pakistan has requested a takedown of your content in Pakistan. So they can't, so a random person in Pakistan can't have your content taken down, but the government can say, hey, this is illegal here, and YouTube will not allow your content to be played in Pakistan. So these guys are, so they have entire government agencies whose entire job is to track down people who are guilty of blasphemy and apostasy. But these guys are complaining, we've only gotten a certain number of people, when there are hundreds of thousands of people posting this content. And so they have this problem where people are posting online on sites and chat rooms in Pakistan, pictures where, they've written the name of Muhammad or Allah or something like that on their private parts and are posting it. And this is the popular form of blasphemy. And notice, you can't really, if a woman has written the name of Muhammad on her butt and she posts a picture, then as long as she's been careful about it and, it can't be traced back to her, it's kind of hard to track down. So these guys, that's why these guys are wondering, do we need to burn entire cities to the ground in order to stop
They want to cleanse the whole city because of couple of people, just to make sure they got the perpetrators, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yep.
But let's see if we can share one more time. Looks like Sister Hatun is talking about the issue, and she will be sharing example of letters or emails, I should say, from YouTube. By the way, I am also a recipient of that, courtesy of you. By the way, when we did a show on Muhammad and the fact that he is a child marriage and sleeping with Aisha, a young child.
But wait, isn't all of that true?
Oh, I know. I mean, that's the thing. And I actually, they will tell you, of course, in the email, you can really, send them back try to refute the complaint or maybe make your case. And that's what I did. I made my case and I said, we were reporting Islamic sources. We are not attacking Islam. We're actually promoting its teachings. They didn't buy it.
Yeah, these Muslim scholars should be thanking us for telling the world about their fake prophet, right?
No,
I mean, notice they've got all this stuff in the Muslim sources that they don't want anyone to know about. We tell them about this stuff, and then they get mad at us. Wait, you're getting mad at us for telling people the information about your prophet that you don't want people to know.
Yeah, exactly. It's absolutely laughable. So let's see if it works this time. Hopefully. We will show that clip about Sister Hatun.
Muslims are walking away from Islam.
No, it's not working, man.
Yep, that just happens. For future reference, you can always download the video and then play it from your own computer when it happens. But yeah, so that's again, everyone who live streams has experiences with sometimes the internet's just running slow.
Yeah. So basically, she was sharing about what was going on, the fact that YouTube was sending her those emails, and I think they took down a number of her videos, and she was showing one after the other. And it's interesting, by the way, have you ever received anything related to any other country outside of Pakistan? Because it seems like Pakistan is the only one who's paying attention to anything we do.
Yeah, I've gotten takedown notices from a bunch of countries over the years: Indonesia, Malaysia, India, which India surprised me a little bit. So I'm wondering, like, was that a Muslim area of India? I don't know. What's interesting is, by far, the vast majority of takedown notices were from Pakistan. So they actually cracked down far more than everyone else combined. But what's interesting is that the number 2 source of takedowns was Germany. It was Pakistan, then Germany. And so isn't that, I mean, isn't that interesting that of all places, a country smack in the middle of Europe is bigger on taking down content critical of Islam than Saudi Arabia, right? Isn't that weird? Anyway.
I've never received a single complaint related to Saudi Arabia, a single one. I mean, it's kind of amazing, to be honest with you. By the way, folks, I posted the link right here in the chat box for everybody, but I will post it also in the description box. So, David, I mean, let's talk about some reasons. Why do you think the people, especially young generations who are daring really to take stands like this, are leaving Islam? By the way, leaving Islam is one thing. That doesn't mean they're coming to Christ, obviously. I mean, they are declaring themselves to be ex-Muslims. In fact, that's interesting in and of itself. To use the phrase or the title ex-Muslims is almost like a pun against the religion itself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, as far as it goes back to what I was just mentioning, that 14 centuries people haven't been allowed to criticize Islam in the Muslim world. So notice, even if you were somewhere else, even if you were in Europe or something like that, and speaking against Islam, that's not really getting to people who are in Pakistan or who are in Saudi Arabia or something like that. They're not seeing that, so they're not being exposed to that. Now, all of a sudden, we're in the age of the internet, where people who are in Pakistan itself can suddenly criticize Islam all they want, as long as they're doing it on the internet and as long as they're being careful. Like if they're using, I guess, VPNs and things like that to keep the government from knowing where they're posting this content, from knowing their identity, they can get away with it. So now all of a sudden you have that. But in addition to that, now a younger generation is growing up and they're being exposed to that online. So they're not growing up with the idea that we can't, under any circumstances, criticize Muhammad or the Quran. They're growing up and in an environment where we can do it as long as we do it on the internet. And so basically anyone with a computer in Pakistan can now be exposed to this kinds of content. And at first they might be shocked if they haven't been exposed to it before. At first they might be shocked, but then they start watching, and then they start getting more information, and then people start joining in, and then they become apostates and so on. And the sheikhs have no clue what to do. I mean, they have no idea what to do, because they've only ever had one game plan. That's threaten everyone with murder, or carry out the murder if need be, but control what people say using that method. That's the only plan they've ever had. And now it's not working, and they're crying their eyeballs out over it because they have no way of dealing with this.
Absolutely. And of course, I mean, let's ask ourselves, why wouldn't young generation Muslims who are starting to really learn more about Islam, and keep in mind, in Pakistan, they don't read Arabic, they don't have access to a lot of translations, if you wish. There is a lack of translation of a lot of primary sources of Islam, which I really hope a lot of people do their PhDs just on that. That alone can create a massive, basically bank of resources for people to see for themselves what is it exactly that Islam teaches at its primary sources. So now that they are coming across some of those videos, like our videos, websites and so on and so forth, and they're waking up to the reality that the religion that I follow doesn't really teach what it's allegedly is teaching, or doesn't stand for what is allegedly standing for. And also, why would you follow a religion that says it's against idolatry, and yet you are bowing down to a rock 5 times a day? You are kissing a rock, you are touching a rock, you are going to visit rocks when you are performing a pilgrimage, you are rocking rocks or throwing stones at rocks. I mean, seriously, man. I mean, it's just unbelievable. I mean, stuff that doesn't make any sense.
Absolutely. And what's amazing is this has just gotten started, right? I mean, this literally just got started. So for anyone who doesn't know, for 14 centuries, Muslim leaders have been able to keep their people insulated from ever hearing criticism of what they're telling them, right? So the Muslim leaders are telling their people what to think, how to live, every little detail of their life, how to go to the bathroom. They're telling them this. They're telling them this, that all of this comes from God through Muhammad. And so they're able to keep them from ever hearing any criticisms of this position. So people would spend their entire lives without hearing criticism of Muhammad or the Quran. And they've been able to keep these people insulated from ever hearing a serious presentation of an alternative to Islam. So you never get to hear a serious presentation of the gospel. You never get to hear Christian apologetics. You might, because there have always been Christian missionaries and so on. And in some areas you do have both Christians and Muslims and so on. But there are parts of the Muslim world where you're going to spend your life and not hear a lot of criticism of Muhammad, and not hear a lot of gospel preaching. And all of a sudden, after 14 centuries of these guys having complete power and control, and that's pretty much what it's about. These guys had power and control over entire populations, and all of a sudden they feel themselves losing their control over these populations, because now a bunch of things have happened. It's not just the internet, although it's all related to the internet. But so for 14 centuries, if you were in the West and you wanted to carry the gospel to Muslims, I mean, you're putting your life in danger. And so not a lot of people were going to do this, because if you were at all successful, if you went over there and started preaching and you're successful and a bunch of people start converting to Christianity, you're dead. So there are Christian missionaries who went that route and died. All of a sudden, anyone can do it, and your life isn't in danger. I mean, I guess it may be a little bit in danger, because someone could always, come and kill you over here or something like that. But in general, far less dangerous. So now anyone can do it. I mean, anyone who's got a phone in his pocket can now talk to a Muslim in Saudi Arabia or Pakistan or something like that on social media. And so now people who used to be completely isolated, people who used to be under the complete control of their religious leaders are now no longer under the complete control of their religious leaders. Now they can hear criticisms of Muhammad. They can hear all this stuff these guys have been telling them. Oh, our beloved book has been perfectly preserved right down to the letter from the time of Muhammad. Now they get to find out that that is complete nonsense. That's a lie. They've been lied to. Muhammad is the greatest man who's ever lived. Everyone acknowledges he's the greatest man who's ever lived. No, now they get to see all the crazy, insane, horribly evil stuff that Muhammad did. So all of the lies of the sheikhs are being exposed, thanks in large part to the internet. But also now it's just a time where, I mean, just think, if you just went back 40 or 50 years, if you're a regular Muslim in Pakistan or something like that, if you're just a regular Muslim, you're living your life, you get up, you work, and so on. You don't have Sahih al-Bukhari, you don't have Sahih Muslim, you don't have these Muslim sources. You are completely dependent on your scholars for all of this, which means that they get to filter the information that they want you to have, right? They get to say, okay, here are thousands of hadiths in this collection. Let's pick out the ones that we want this person to believe, and all the other stuff we won't tell that person. That person doesn't have open access to Sahih al-Bukhari or Sahih Muslim, so he only believes what his leaders tell him. Now, all of a sudden, we come along and we've got open access to their sources, and we can tell them about what their prophet really did, what their prophet was really like. And so all of this stuff is hitting the community at once. This just got started. This just got off the ground. And they're already screaming about the avalanche of apostasy, trying to figure out what to do about all the people who are committing blasphemy online. And these guys are literally contemplating burning entire cities to the ground in order to stop this. And they don't realize you're not going to stop it that way, because that's not the source of the problem. The source of the, I don't know what you could burn down a city. That might start that might stop that might stop whoever was blaspheming in that city. That's only going to increase it once everyone else sees what you're doing, right? So these guys they're stuck, man. They're stuck.
Absolutely. Courtesy of ISIS. I mean, ISIS alone caused a lot of young generation Muslims just to leave Islam because they get delusional about what they were watching. It's like, oh, that's what I studied about how the prophet basically invaded, or how, the various wars that he basically waged against apostates, or waged against the idolaters, and so on and so forth. And then Abu Bakr against the apostates, and so on and so forth. So people are watching it on YouTube and realizing that's what I read. Now I'm watching it. You know what I mean? And the thing is this, you and I know, David, how many times they attack the Bible. It's corrupt, it's corrupt, it's corrupt. And all of a sudden, you begin to show them manuscripts of the Quran that has been corrected, edited, words that were removed, erased, words that were written over. And they are in shock, obviously. I don't blame them. You've been programmed and conditioned to believe something for 14 centuries, and all of a sudden you're waking up to the reality that the very argument you're waging against the Bible actually applies to your book perfectly. It is not preserved. It is corrupt, has been changed and tampered with. In our case, we are not really concerned about anything. We have massive amount of manuscripts to support what we have. We never, ever, made claims that we cannot back up, basically. And we have footnotes in our Bible that justifies every single argument we make. In the case of the Quran, no, it's one Quran. Really? How many Qurans Sister Hatun had so far? 37, I think.
Yeah, and that's actually related to us. See, notice, if a Christian has a family and has kids and so on, suppose those kids grow up and they go off to college, and let's suppose they don't believe in Christianity anymore. Those apostates, so they would be apostates. So those apostates might not have any hostility towards their parents. They might still love their parents and have nothing but respect for their parents, and just think, okay, my parents were wrong about Christianity or something like that. You're getting a different reaction. Now, to be fair, those kids might, I'm angry at my parents for sending me to church all these years, or they might have a bad relationship with their parents or something, or they might be enraged against God and so on. So you could get a range of different reactions. But in places like Pakistan, when Muslims are leaving Islam, there's an extra component to their reaction because they find out they've been lied to. Like look at Christian apologists. Like look at William Lane Craig. You might disagree with William Lane Craig on all kinds of things. You don't get the impression that he's like deliberately lying to you or something like that. At most, you'd say, okay, I disagree with him. I think he's wrong. You don't get the impression that Christian apologists are just making stuff up and trying to conceal stuff from you and trying to hide stuff from you and trying to condition you into mindlessly accepting things that they know are false, right? So you don't get that impression. When a Muslim in, let's say, Pakistan leaves Islam, and it's in response to things that he found out online, it's a different reaction because, wait a minute, that guy, my sheikh, has told me my entire life, perfect preservation of the Quran right down to the letter. And now I'm online and I see people putting Quran manuscripts side by side. I see people putting different versions of the Quran, Hafs and Warsh and so on, putting them side by side and showing me the differences. What does that mean? My sheikh wasn't simply wrong. He wasn't simply mistaken. That dude knows about this. He was lying to me. It wasn't just he's been wrong my entire life. He's been lying to me my entire life. If this guy was lying to me my entire life, what else is he lying about? And that means I can't trust anything this guy's saying because the guy who's been telling me everything I've believed about my religion was all coming from a liar. And so there's this added component where, again, if, anyone's, can have a relative or child or friend or something like this who becomes an apostate. But that person doesn't need to conclude, oh, my friend or relative or whoever was lying to me. He was just wrong. But when people are leaving Islam, they're concluding these guys were liars. These guys, these Muslim apologists, the Zakir Naiks of the world, the Ahmed Didas, these guys were lying to the community. They were lying to their listeners. And so there's this added bit of anger. Like you actually tricked me. You tricked me into this. You had to deceive me into this. And now I'm angry. And the way they're expressing this anger is through blasphemy. They want to get back at these guys. In other words, here's what's amazing, Al. Here's what's amazing. The Muslim scholars are openly weeping on television. Why are they weeping? Because of all the blasphemy. What was the purpose of the blasphemy? You've got all these ex-Muslims who are enraged at these guys for lying about them, and they're trying to hurt them back. They're like, wait, you lied to me all my life, made me do all this stuff all my life, made me live my life by the teachings of your fake prophet. Now I've realized you were lying to me. I want to get back at you. So I'm going to I know how to annoy you. I know you guys flip out at blasphemy. So I'm going to post all kinds of blasphemy all over the internet just to get back at you guys. And then these guys are openly weeping. Can you imagine the joy that these apostates are feeling right now? Like, oh, wait, you guys are finally feeling it, huh? You guys are finally noticing.
Mission accomplished.
Mission accomplished.
And it's just a ridiculous reaction, if you ask me. It's like, what are you weeping about? I mean, because people made a decision to leave your religion. So what? Okay, well, they left. Why should I worry about that? Why should I weep about that? Okay, well, if you're really that dogmatic about your religion, then find out why they left and maybe try to focus on keeping the rest. But, we keep hearing all the time, Muslims are, Islam is growing, people are converting to Islam. Okay, that's one side of the story. What about the other side? A lot of Muslims are leaving Islam. For instance, statistics will say about 23% of Muslims who are born in America, are becoming atheists. That's a large number, And I always say this: if in the Middle East today, the apostasy law will be lifted up and freedom of religion is really granted to people, you are going to be shocked how many people have left Islam.
Yeah, and that's not just according to us; that's according to them. I'm sure you've seen the clips where they're saying there are millions of ex-Muslims in Muslim countries who are actually closet atheists. There are people who are imams, and I've heard this from both Christians and I've heard this from Muslims. So there's this famous clip from Asadullah Ali where he's talking about meeting people who are coming up and confiding to him that they're actually ex-Muslims, but these are Muslims who are being educated in madrasas. They're leading the calls to prayer and stuff like this. Some of them have memorized the Quran. They have memorized the Quran, and they're actually undercover apostates and atheists. So I've heard that from, of course, him, and I've heard it from Christians who have connections in the Middle East. They know people who have confided in them that they don't actually believe, but they're actually imams, right? They're imams, and they'll say, "Wait, how can you be an imam and you don't really believe it?" And they'll go, "It's a job. It's a job. This is how I get paid. This is my job in the community." So you've got atheists who treat it like a job to be an imam, and they don't actually believe anything that they're saying. So anyway, it's Muslims who are telling us that there are actually millions of ex-Muslims in their communities who just aren't free. So notice, if you lifted the apostasy laws in Muslim countries, all of a sudden these guys might feel free to announce that they're apostates. And it's just going to be a funny situation where I said it in a video one day. I think you're going to end up one day with an imam in a mosque who's going to say, "Hey guys, I'm glad that they've lifted the apostasy laws, and finally I can tell you I'm not actually a Muslim. I don't believe any of this stuff that I've been saying over the years. I'm actually an apostate." He's going to be an imam, and then everyone's going to be shocked, and someone in the community there is going to say, "Actually, I'm not really a Muslim too. I don't believe any of this either." And then another hand's going to go up, and they're going to find out they're all ex-Muslims. It's going to be a mosque where they're all ex-Muslims, but they're all still going to the mosque because they're terrified of being executed, not realizing that they're all ex-Muslims. But I think that's where things are heading towards. So notice that the apostasy laws and all of this, it's not stopping the apostasy, it's not stopping the behavior, but the Muslim leaders, they have no plan B. Violence has always been the solution to apostasy, and now violence isn't working, and they're weeping on stage because they have no other plan. Hey, here's an idea. How about be nice to people, stop treating people like garbage, stop using threats of violence to control people's behavior. And if you've got a case for Islam, how about making your case for Islam without including tons and tons of lies that will only serve to expose you later? Do that and see how it works. The problem is, one, they don't know how to operate without violence, and two, they don't know how to operate without lies. I mean, what could they actually say as an argument for Islam that does not incorporate deception? So they're just in a pretty big pickle here.
They are indeed. Well, David, I know our time is up, and I want to thank you, of course, for taking the time to be here with us. And I look forward to our next live stream on another interesting topic. It'll be interesting, really, to follow up on the status of these particular stories in this clip and see if there are more of them popping up somewhere else. But it is just absolutely fascinating to me to see that by the admission of Muslims, like you stated in the clip itself, and by the way, folks, the clip will be in the description box. Many of them are admitting that a lot of Muslims are leaving, and they consider that to be a problem and trying to wrestle with how they can resolve it. And some of them are coming up, like you stated, with weird and wild ideas, burning down cities or capturing people. They were celebrating the fact that there were at least, I think, 11 that were convicted basically to death, and that they won't be able to be bailed out. And they're celebrating that. It's almost like it's 11 people. 11 people. Somehow these 11 people, when they are, let's say, the capital punishment is applied to them because of blasphemy, somehow Islam is going to survive. What an amazing thing indeed.
Yep, they're in trouble. No way out.
Yeah. Well, thank you, brother. And thank you, everyone, for joining us. Again, check the description box later today, and I will make sure that I'll have that short clip, which is about, I think it's about 12 minutes long, give or take. You're going to have the link in there. And by the way, folks, if you have other clips similar to that, please shoot us our way. You can always go to my website, sirainternational.com, and you can contact me that way. David, any updates on your new channel? How can people connect with you? Is it just through the channel, or do you have other means also?
Oh yeah, they're all means. You don't have to look too far to find D Wood. But yeah, I agree with you that it is going to be interesting seeing what happens here because viewers might not remember. You're talking 15 years ago, Muslims were still saying that no one leaves Islam, right? I mean, you just go back 15 years when someone announced that he was an ex-Muslim just 15 years ago, he'd be called, you liar, you're actually an undercover Jew, pretending. How do we know? Because no one leaves Islam. No one ever leaves Islam. They were still claiming that. And now they're crying on stage over the apostasy. This all happened within the last 15 years, this change. And so the question is, if this happened that rapidly and it's accelerating, even the statistic about 23% leaving of young Muslims leaving Islam, that's from several years ago. And so it's like, if everything's accelerating, what are things going to be like 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now? It's like, can Islam survive? I'm not convinced that it can when their only solution is, well, let's burn everything to the ground.
That's right. We can only imagine. Well, everybody, thank you so much. Thank you, brother. This is Al Fadi over and out. God bless.